Welcome back to another episode of How Did They Grow? I created this podcast because I wanted you to learn how other coaches, freelancers, service providers, and course sellers are growing their business, landing 10 to 20 new clients every single month, paying them 50, 100, 200K months. See, if they've done it, you can too. And that's just the reality. And I want you to listen to these podcasts to understand what strategies are they using, what techniques are they exploring, because it's in these gems that you can apply it to your business and actually scale things up. When you're ready and you feel like you actually want to learn practical, proven methodologies, or even you want to hire a team that can build you a profitable personal brand, book in a chat with our team because we can guarantee you go viral and guarantee you get clients for your business.
And welcome to the show, guys. This is the How Did They Grow podcast. And today we have on Justine Reese. Justine is a voiceover coach. So Justine, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. So I'm a voiceover talent and vocal empowerment coach. And I'm specifying that because when we first started talking, you're like, I don't quite understand what you do. And this is often the problem with entrepreneurs is that we're multifaceted.
Yeah.
But I started as a voiceover talent. I started as an actress, really. And I found that being behind one of these, gave me a lot of freedom to create and not be concerned about the way I looked, even though I'm not that I was uncomfortable with the way I looked, but in Los Angeles or in bigger cities, that need, that push to be on camera, there was just something freeing to get behind the microphone. And I absolutely loved it. And I found that my acting training certainly did help. And it used to be that voiceover was something that only actors got into. It's expanded massively now. So as years went on and I got my early start mostly in commercials because it was easier to get into and I was able to make demos quickly. You need four basic things if you're going to do voiceover. Okay. Coaching and training. So these are like table legs. So if you're paying attention and voiceover is something you want, we can certainly talk further about it, but 4 table legs, okay? Coaching and training specifically for voiceover, which will include some acting. It is voice acting, right? Voice acting and voiceover are not two separate things. They are the same. Number 2, you need a home studio, right? When I started, I didn't need a home studio. That's today, 2025. You need to have your own equipment. Nobody goes into the studio anymore. So learning how to use it, learning how to set one up, it's not as complicated as you think, but it's definitely something you want mentorship on and not try to do like with YouTube videos. Number 3, you want professionally produced demos with original content, original scripts. Where do I get that? That's a whole other conversation, but you don't want to do that on your own. Don't DIY that one, right? It's supposed to sound like professional work that you've done. So if you're DIYing it, chances are it's not going to have post-production. It's not going to have all the things that you need. So have a demo producer, work professionally. And then 4, this one, right? Good marketing, right? Which can include your social media, of course. And then I like to say there's a beautiful tablecloth, and that's community, because we rise together much faster than we will on our own.
You rise by lifting others.
Yeah, right. And I think we were talking earlier too, that as I started coaching and helping other people find their emotional tone to bring into their words, which is really the key component here, is authenticity. How do we do that? Well, the more I taught, the more I learned to do it myself. There's a reflection back. So the more I gave, the more I received, the better I got at it, the more money I could demand for, say, one of my favorite things to do now is audiobooks. So, and if you look my name up, you can find a bunch of the books out there. So and I would say this to you, 5 years ago, I didn't have anything on Amazon. And now I've both written content and audiobooks that are there, plus a podcast. So it can build. One thing leads to another. So when that thing feels super far away, and this is what I tell people when they want to start voiceover careers, is it's all the baby steps that get us there slowly. But you've got to start somewhere. And maybe don't try and rough it alone, right? Same with anything. Find people that you can learn from, mentor with, and yes, pay to help you, right? The investment is a flow that's going to come back to you. Do your research, obviously, where you go.
Most important.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Um, Kind of tell us a little bit about how you got here. Why? What was it like growing up? Were you always the girl with the amazing voice? How was
Oh
that?
my gosh. I'm so glad you asked that. I got to give a talk earlier today and I got to tell this story. So, one of my missions now, and the name of the book that I'm getting a proof on today, is called Reclaim Your Voice. I've had so many people come to me, especially women, saying, I want to find my voice again. And I say, you never lose your voice unless you're the Little Mermaid. But even the Little Mermaid got her voice back. So back in when I was a kid, I I always ask you, and this is something as an audience member you can think about right now, was there a time you felt shut down? What was the first time you remember someone saying, don't say that, children should be seen and not heard? Or a teacher or your parents said, you know what, don't be, that's too much, right? So mine, in fourth grade, I really was a little gregarious young lass. I grew up in Sacramento, California, and I really was very free, and I loved to write and I loved to sing and dance and just be sort of the center of attention. And I wrote a creative writing story and I turned it in to my teacher, Mrs. Fleer. And the title of the story was The Sexy Snowflake. Pretty racy, right? Sexy snowflake. Nothing really racy in the story. It was a cute little snowflake who like stepped on her tiptoes to kiss her boyfriend. But she told me that was inappropriate. I never should have, written such a story with that title. She called my mother. Now my mother backed me up. But it's funny that I remember this so vividly. That Mrs. Fleer. What's that?
I said it left a mark.
It left a mark, right? The following year, fifth grade, again, all I wanted to do was be in the school play. Now, I was at a gifted school, meaning I barely qualified with my IQ to get into this gifted program. Probably was not a good place for me because I was the youngest person in class. I have a late November birthday. We've learned a lot since these days. My parents didn't know any better, but they pushed me forward. So I was like 4 when I started kindergarten. It's better to be 5. So you parents out there, if you're thinking, if you have one of those kids that's on the cusp, you never regret waiting, especially with boys. At any rate, 5th grade, I couldn't be in the school play because my grades were not good enough. Another moment that really stuck with me, because there I am, all I want to do is perform. Now I'm not being allowed to be creative and I'm dumb. I'm taking that in like I'm stupid. My grades aren't good enough, right? So kind of started to develop that intellectual sense of myself, not enoughness. But you know what I was? I was pretty. And so I really remember moving into junior high and high school, wanting more to fit in than to stand out. My attempts at standing out were shut down over and over and over again. So by learning that I could fit in and be accepted, right? Belonging. Brene Brown talks about our need. Maya Angelou talks about this. We have an inane, intense need to belong. And we find our way into that whatever way we can. So mine was, okay, I'm pretty, Farrah Fawcett hairdo. Between sophomore and junior year, this is where my parents made up for their mistakes earlier. My mom's and dad said, you're going to drama camp, because they knew that I'd suppressed this desire. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to drama camp. I'm not going to become one of those crazy drama freaks. No way, not me, And they said, no, you're going. I said, well, what if I hate it? And my mom said, you can come home. And guess what? I did not hate it. I loved it. And I never wanted to come home. And it literally, Mike, changed the trajectory of everything after that. So I came back to school. I didn't lose those popular girlfriends. I gained more friends. I got to be in school plays. I went to college. I became a theater major. Now, I don't know if I recommend that. Get a business major too. Yeah.
This is where the standing out kind of came out, was released.
Correct. And so from there, I wanted to be an actress and I moved to Los Angeles. I started out in college down here, but then it was just overwhelming. And I chose, hey, I'm going to go back to school. So then I went back east where it was snowing. So I had to stay in the library and study. Wasn't so nice out all the time. That was a good choice for me. And a guy came from Broadway to teach us a stage combat class when I was graduating. And I said, hey, I just want to work and get paid. And so he was the fight choreographer for the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. And so I auditioned. And by the way, that's where I learned some British accents because all day long we had
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that's where that started. But the voiceover thing came when I met somebody who was moving to California to do voiceover. And I'm like, what is voiceover? And he said, I'm going to be the next Mel Blanc. And I'm like, who's Mel Blanc? Now, I'm sure some of you out there know who Mel Blanc is, but do you, Mike?
No idea.
Okay. He was all the Looney Tunes characters.
Whoa,
all of them.
It was one guy?
One guy did the Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all those characters. And he was called the Man of 1,000 Voices.
Wow.
And it's also been said by his son, I heard on a podcast, that he could watch his dad working in the booth, and he could tell what character he was doing by his posture. That's a whole other story. But how we create characters with our voices is not just here, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, my friend moved to California and his first job was Daffy Duck in Space Jam. And I was like, nailed it, right? He made this big statement.
Yeah.
He created that vision. So that's a whole other thing about creating a vision and taking little actions toward it. And he named it. So when you are out there thinking, I want to do something with my voice, I want to do a TED Talk, I want to do whatever it is, you got to stand in the power of the future of that and then reverse engineer how you're going to get there, right?
Yeah.
And that said a lot. So when I moved back to California, I started looking into voiceover. And that's kind of how that evolved. And it's been up and down. And I've definitely got sidetracked many times, as we do. And guess why? Fear. Same thing that kept me from going to drama camp, right? That whole, I'm afraid to stand out. So it doesn't end just because you conquer it one time, which is why Reclaim Your Voice is a process of pivoting back onto ourselves to get that confidence back. But one thing is for sure, if you can own your voice, your confidence will massively grow in your relationships, in your work, everywhere.
Amazing.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast. I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're learning so much practical wisdom because that's what I really wanted from this podcast. Now, I just want to quickly say, if you're looking for a team that can actually help you explode and go viral with your personal brand with proven methodologies, I say this because I've been doing this for the past 5 years. We've got a team of 30 people who are ready to go ahead and explode your brand so you can get clients begging to work with you. Have a chat with one of our advisors. You can book in a chat using one of the links around this video because that chat might just change your life.
I think this is amazing. Let's kind of get into, okay, you had a successful voice acting career, right?
Somewhat. Yeah.
Okay, let's say somewhat. What was kind of the push to transition into coaching, or now that you're transitioning to coaching? And this one I want you to answer in your British accent. Let's hear that.
Right. All right. So
all right.
It mainly started when, well, I got into casting early on, first of all. And in casting and voiceover, can I stop with the British accent? We can do another accent. We'll do another accent.
Okay.
When I started with coaching, with casting, I'm sorry. So here's the story. I got sent to an audition in LA at this place called the Voicecaster. The Voicecaster is one of the oldest, maybe one of the first voiceover casting offices in the world. Because this guy, Bob Lloyd, realized, wait a second, a lot, if you've ever seen Mad Men, they would do casting a lot at the ad agencies. They would do castings at the ad agencies. And this guy was like, what if I could pool all the good voice talent and I'll work with the clients and get them the 15 top talent in town? So that's kind of how that worked, which meant, you guys, when we were auditioning for commercials back in the day, maybe I was going up against 15 women. My odds were way, way higher, right? So I got sent there for an audition, but I went to the back door and knocked on it. And I was like, hey, would you guys hire me to do something? And they were like, yeah, we need a booth operator. I was like, what's a booth operator? They're like, you're going to run the soundboard and direct people and record their auditions. And I was like, cool, sign me up. So what that did for me is it taught me behind the scenes how to direct those people to give them to create better auditions. So I got very good. Also, I was a good listener. So when they would say to me, when I was auditioning, things like, hey, add a wink to that, slow the pace down, I started to get that lingo. And this is where I came up with a word called opportune. When preparation meets opportunity, you have an opportune.
Yes.
But often we forget to prepare. So then the opportune shows up and we're like, the opportunity shows up and we're like, darn, I'm not ready for this. I don't have the preparation. So if you've got the spark of something you want to do, start learning about it, because that means that's pushing you towards your vision and your dream. And if you don't take the time to prepare, you'll miss the opportunity. So my opportunity there came when ladies didn't show up for their auditions. And there was a 10-minute slot. So they'd be like, Justine, get in there. And I started to book work. That's how I started to book work, because I was prepared for the opportunity. Opportune. I feel like I strayed from the question a little bit. Oh, how did I get into coaching? So I think that was my first glimpse at how I could help direct someone else to give a better read.
Okay.
Years passed, and I had got distracted many times, by the way, by my fear. At one point I made probably $50,000 on one national commercial. I'm not going to go into details of that, but that's the kind of money that's potential out there. I still shied away from the thing that I was doing. Someone asked me to start a marketing business and a franchise. And so I did. And I spent $65,000 on that franchise. And I have often asked myself, what if I had spent $6,000 on myself, right?
Yeah.
Where's this crazy brain? So watch how crazy you can get with fear. So that distraction took me away from what I was doing. And I ran into a casting person while I was in the midst of that era of my life. And he's like, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? And I said, yeah. He goes, come in for this audition. And when I went in for the audition, guess what he told me? He's like, you're rusty. Because I got out of practice.
Yeah.
So, I got distracted. So I finally got back when somebody told me about a company called Such a Voice. And they interviewed me to become a coach. And I had actually just gone through some breast cancer. So I was kind of pulled away from everything for about a year, which I'm okay. And I'm a great survivor and I'm really lucky. But I rethought a lot of things at that time. And so the idea that I could coach virtually from home, I was like, wait a second, this is fantastic. As I build my career back up again and kind of get out there in the workforce again. So by doing that, I started to learn about the virtual world of voiceover, which is the way of voiceover. I love coaching, but I didn't love the one-on-one as much as the group. And so I started doing more group coaching, and I still work with Such a Voice. I'm completely shouting out to them, because if you talk to me about voiceover, I will probably gear you towards what I do with Such a Voice, where I still teach with, we create demos. But that brought me into the Reclaim Your Voice, because every time I work with people, the aha moments are not just about what they're going to record on a voiceover, it's internal. Because as you learn to bring your emotional tone into not only your words, other people's words, something shifts. Yeah. Confidence builds. If you're working towards a voiceover career, obviously, it's something you get to have for the rest of your life. I play a demo in class by a woman who made her demo at 80 years old. I just started working with a woman who's 82. My aunt wrote a book that I narrated called How to Make a Life. Her name is Florence Reese Kraut. And she's going to hate me for saying this. I'm sorry, Florence, but she published at 82. And it's a bestseller.
Amazing.
So, and I got to have the privilege of leaving the legacy. And that's the other thing about voiceover. It's a legacy, right? So if you're considering doing, what's that?
I said, it's always going to be there.
Right. Isn't that what we all want, to leave some kind of a mark on the world, which is why being an author is so creatively satisfying, because once you get the words out there, you can kind of like, if you're gifting it to the world and nobody can take that away ever. Same with your voice, especially in audiobooks. Not everything is so evergreen, but man, audio. And when that clicked for me and I'm like, okay, now I got to read my aunt's book. We got to work on it together. Like nobody can take that away from me. but open the door to whatever you want to do creatively. Because what voiceover brought me is now I'm a published author a few times over on Amazon as well. Anthologies start small, right? I'm in 3 anthologies that turned bestsellers, but they got my stories out, and then I get to record them. So
Amazing. This is all amazing. This is all amazing. So you were speaking about, the coaching business and your personal brand. How long have you been trying to build that? Is this something new?
yeah, I want to say, Mike, that this is something new. The expansion into really ownership of it. And this goes back to the pandemic, which to me there was a huge silver lining, because I had to take what I call my pandemic pause. Now we all did, right? The whole
Yes.
world shut down and made us sort of have to think differently, act differently, stay at home more, isolate. Well, voiceover, we were already isolating, working from home. So it was a great industry to be in because we were already doing the thing, right?
Yeah.
More messaging was needed. People were more interested in getting into it because they're like, I've always wanted to do this and now I have time. So I feel like our business grew with such a voice, but I started to think about my own life. Okay. And I got into meditation, sitting still. The pause became like a real daily practice for me, which it had not been. Parents are type A. I'm a go, go, go. Like my mom was a marathon runner, literally. And till the day she died, she tried to keep biking and cycling and ran 100-mile races and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that was my model, like type A, go, go, go. You are labeled and applauded for your achievements. So this sitting still thing was very different for me. But by doing so, I realized I was not happy. I needed to change a lot of things, and separated from my ex. Also got out of a lot of this whole idea of blaming and feeling like other people's things were my fault, or that, their successes or failures were mine. And, I don't believe that everyone should get divorced to find themselves. But for me, that was part of the journey. And it happened during the pandemic. And I started visualizing what I wanted, which was, I'm going to buy a house with a mountain view. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. That was my vision that started coming to me. And my training is in meditations with Justin Michael Williams. Shout out to him too, because it changed my life. That, the pandemic, and my divorce, and some 12-step work, which I'm not going to get too far into that, but I love the 12-step programs. I love how they share in meetings and don't, it's a great space to learn that you're powerless over many things. Okay. So all of those things combined allowed me the courage to change, literally. And none of that's easy. Also the courage to look at the pain points and the sticky stuff. And that's really important, because if we can't look at that, you can't grow past it. So learning that and being able to teach that, even in the scope of voiceover, like when I talk to people about starting voiceover careers, so many things come up, and a lot of it's fear. Just like I faced fear and, spent $65,000 on a franchise. Yeah. So that's kind of what brought me to doing this and changing the audience. And then in the last year and a half, working with Justin and mindfulness and helping people create their dreams, I realized the confidence in your voice, reclaiming your voice, coming up with that theory of when was the voice magical? And then we go into when was it shut down? And how do we get it back? And maybe there's an origin story that you can develop from that, and you can write your own book or do your own speech, and or be more comfortable in the boardroom. So through now retreats, I'm leading my first co-facilitating to Costa Rica to an eco lodge. It's called Edge of Discovery. We're going to get in rafts. We're going to push our edge. You raft in, you raft out. You're going to get on a zip line. And then we're going to come in and talk about how did that feel? Everything's fine. My cat did that. I don't know if you heard that.
Hey.
Your kitty cats. Talk about push your edge. Okay. Sorry about that. You can either cut that out or leave it in. Yeah, that was an edge pusher right there. how do we push our edge, and how do we do that vocally and internally as well? And then we're going to work through that. And I'm starting a whole program around Reclaim Your Voice and having circles to really delve into how do we move past the things that have shut us down so we can step into our own greatness.
Amazing. That's all amazing. That's all amazing. I was gonna ask you, like, so okay, you've been doing this for a while. What was your kind of strategy? Because you're relatively new. Can you still hear me?
I can. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
yes, perfect. Yes, so you're relatively new, just like some people in our audience. How
Yeah.
were you able to get these clients to how were you able to get these clients? What was your strategy? Was it a lot of social media? What was it?
That is such a good question. And I think in some ways the strategy is starting to find me more than I don't recommend this. I think what I am learning about, particularly around the coaching industry, is the first thing that's important. And I learned this from really wonderful people like Lisa Nichols and Sean Smith. Trust. You've got to build a trust and a rapport with whoever is going to eventually buy from you and trust you, that you've got something to offer them. So what are you giving? You have, before you start asking people to buy from you, they've got to see the value in you. I think because I had a lot of clients shifting over from the voiceover industry, I was able to develop the trust in one area and then reinvigorate it in another area. But that's not like all those clients are the same clients. I think putting yourself out there consistently, and I'm still getting better at this. Consistency is key. Don't always think about the end game. You have to do the free webinars and not stop because 2 people show up, right? Find your tribe too. Become part of communities that can support you. I got on a great call, and I'm part of the Diva Network. I have to shout out to the Diva Network, because the Diva Network in many ways, Mike, is why I found you. Because I learned, first of all, I collaborate with the Diva Network. Now, the Diva Network is a global network. There are some streaming platforms. We have meetings almost every day. The Diva Network, if you want to reach out, or if you see on my profile, I have it in my profile, a link to sign up, to just try it for free. And then there's a paid upgrade. And it's, for me, the best money I have spent as of yet, because I feel like the collaboration, we have breakout rooms. We're getting to know each other. I got to give a talk this morning about owning your talk, right? Giving some different tone. And I'm collaborating with people on my finances. I'm collaborating with business coaches. And as we learn about each other in the room, we are, even on a one-on-one, the vibe is spreading. It's about raising that vibration, which I'm a big believer in, energy, and how that energy circulates. And so the more that we can circulate that energy, so collaborating, being part of groups that can help support your vision. And of course, building a team. I'm still figuring that out, to be honest with you. So it's been through different kinds of collaboration in different groups. So through the Diva Network, we have a visibility challenge. So we've been consciously trying to be more visible. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable. Posting things that you're not sure are going to work, but really trying to be authentic. My whole thing is be as authentic as possible throughout, right? So you really get to know who this person is. And they invited me into some events. So we were doing it together. And then when we started posting, we were collaborating on the post. So my audience becomes your audience. Your audience becomes, I worked with this beautiful woman, Dr. Natasha. Dr. Natasha, I just had a conversation with Dr. Natasha, who I've just met. By the way, she just has a book out. Amazing. Look her up. You can find her on this is how we share each other's brilliance. And I said, Dr. Natasha, you don't have an audiobook yet. Let's get you an audiobook. And she's like, I know, I tried. I found someone on Fiverr and I didn't work out. So she just gave up on it. I said, well, here's my other business. I'm working with an amazing woman by the name of Kathy Colas. And we train so many narrators. We want to pay work forward to them. I know so many authors that can't figure out how to get their audiobook done. Boom, we have a matching service. It's called Just Cat Audio. We're just launching this. So if you are an author out there and you're like, I really want to do my own book, but I don't know how, I don't recommend you do your own book unless you are Michelle Obama, or Mel Robbins. Of course, you must do your own book. You do not need to record your own book. A trained narrator can get the essence of your voice and do a professional job. That's what you want to do at first. It's too much to learn unless you're a voice talent already. And that can come later. So anyway, that's what we're starting, this matching service. And so she's going to be one of our first books, because I said we're going to get it done.
All from the network. Amazing.
All from the network. All from the network. So what I'm saying is, like, she has something like 25,000 followers. I don't. You see me, I got like 1,800, right? But don't judge yourself by how many followers you have.
Yeah,
just
it's a vanity metric.
Right? It's not. And Mike, you know more about this. I could probably learn from you. You know more about this than I do. But what, by these collaborations, all of a sudden people are following me and commenting. And this is something I learned in the Divas by our amazing trainer, Ali. And his name is hard to pronounce, so I'm not going to try it. But come into the Diva Network, you can meet all of us. But Ali said one day, he goes, when people comment on things on Instagram, what do you do? I'm like, I heard it. He's like, next level. That's not enough. Someone's engaging with you. If someone says hi to you on the street, what do you do? Well, I say hi back. If they compliment you, what do you say? I say, thank you. I got this shirt at blah, blah, blah. I like your shirt too. You start a conversation. I thought this was like such an aha for me, Mike. I don't know, but I was like, I never do that. So I started doing it. I started doing what he said. Instead of just going heart, I went to their profile and I left them a message. Thank you for the like. I'd love to hear more about what you do. I honestly think that's what I'm doing here today. It was because of that strategy. I don't know how I found how we connected. I'm sure this is how we connected. I bet you guys follow Dr. Natasha or somebody else in that network. So I'm starting to expand, and that's how we all expand. That's how social media, to say it's not social, I guess is not true, because it is, but how are we using it? How are we abusing it?
Amazing. Amazing story how we came together as well. Amazing.
I think it's all part of it, right? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I want to kind of ask you this. What is the goal for Justine Reese and empower her voice? Is that it?
The empowered voice. Yeah.
The empowered voice. So what is the goal for Justine Reese and the empowered voice in your personal brand? Where do you see yourself in 2025?
Oh man, I love that question. And I've been giving it a lot of thought. So one thing I didn't share is global impact. By raising my own voice and helping others do the same, I want to have global impact. And I started that mission last summer. I went to Tanzania. I took my 2 adult boys on a humanitarian trip with, I'm going to shout out to them too, the Nguzu Women and Youth Foundation, who helps support menstrual hygiene in the schools of Tanzania, where girls drop out of school because they don't have proper hygiene. When they get their periods, they stop going to school. They don't have changing rooms. So their education drops, and that becomes the norm. Or they are criticized or harassed. So we connected with the PAD Project. That's a whole other story, but the PAD Project has a pattern to make reusable pads. One of our team members, Annette, got her church to make some reusable pads, and the PAD Project and other places donated. So we brought 6 suitcases, about 600 pads. I also found a group called the Pink Lady Foundation. Shout out to you, Stella. Early detection of breast cancer. I'm a breast cancer survivor, as I mentioned. So we brought mastectomy bras, chemo hats. I led them in meditation. And the Nguzu women introduced me to entrepreneurial women, call it Arise and Shine. And they microfund with $2 a month. $2 a month. So that impact that I got to see directly, I got to lead. Some of this is on my Instagram. You just have to scroll down to see it. I got to lead them in meditation to vision their businesses, and I found a calling, and we bought clothes from the women that were making clothes. She designed clothes for our whole team. And then when I got home, Stella asked me specifically about one of the women who we met who had AIDS and breast cancer, if I could raise $100 or $200. And I'm like, she said that would be like $1 million to her. I was like, done. I asked a couple questions on my Instagram and I raised that money, no problem. Got it to her. She came back with video content of them going to see this woman, Veritas, helping. She lives in a mud hut. Some of these women traveled 4 to 8 hours. That's a really long way of me saying helping raise the voices globally
Yeah.
to have absolute impact. And I want to continue, recording books and helping whatever your dream is. I would like to help you get there using your voice and the power of your voice through all kinds of different modalities, including chakra work and clearing. But I'm half woo-woo and I'm half science. And I'd like to shout out to one.
A little woo-woo is good.
Yeah, I love it too. But like if you want to work in corporate, so one other beautiful opportunity I'm going to shout out to them is LaughterWorks. LaughterWorks, I'm super excited to just be coming on board with them to be a fun-facilitator. This was developed by Craig Shoemaker, who's a stand-up comedian, and Tim Duffy, who is a 2-time Emmy award-winning producer that's also turned mindfulness meditation practitioner and facilitator. Great combination. And we are building out LaughterWorks to bring to corporate mindfulness meditation and corporate wellness. And Craig's already been doing this for a while, and now we are like a little army, and it's very exciting. So we're using the power of your voice and laughter, because you can't say I'm depressed. Like, try this with me, Mike. Take a breath and just lay out just laugh for a second. Right. So I love it so much because we use laughter in voiceover. It's called verbal cues. Some people say, well, how it's changing the words. I'm like, no, it's not. It's enhancing. When you learn to do voiceover, you're bringing your personality to the table to bring those words to life. So I always use things like laughter, sounds, things like that. And so my vision is to really change the corporate environment too. Like, there's a lot of negativity in our globe right now, in our country right now. You don't live here. I don't know what you think about what's going on in this country, but it's interesting. And there's we need more coming together. We need more bonding together. Our voices need to be heard. Our peace, working towards peace, not othering, not shaming, get out of, there's no moving ahead with that kind of practice.
Rhetoric,
so that's mind shift. That's mind shift.
Amazing. I think we've kind of gone full circle here. Let me kind of ask you, is there anything you wish I asked you on this podcast?
How to get a hold of me.
Oh, definitely. That's the last thing. No.
Is there anything I wish? Is there anything? I guess I would love to ask you something.
Okay.
How, what you're doing is helping raise voices also. Yeah. How do you feel what I am saying is in alignment with your mission?
I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is to give value and make sure everyone is winning, from our audience to you, to your audience, to us, the company, to even the coaches who come on here. And like, everyone has a story. Everyone has a different journey. So being able to share that, providing that platform, are they able to share their dreams, their journeys, their lessons, and other people being able to benefit. It's amazing. And it's all done through the voice.
The voice. Yeah. And it's like the one thing, and this is what I like to say, when people are like, I don't want to get into voice, or I'm like, that's fine. But this kind of coaching is helping you, as we said, build confidence, create your own content, right? We are all being tasked with having to create our own content if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur. So the more confidence you can learn about what I call the 3 Ps, the pitch, the pace, the physicality, and then the 4th P, the pause. The more you can bring impact to your audience. And if that's what we're all here to do, let's do it to the best of our ability. And then let's listen and help each other.
Amazing, amazing. Let me kind of end with this now. Where can the people go to find out and learn more about what you do?
That's a great question. So I just learned a lot about LinkedIn, and I want to get more visible on LinkedIn. So type in Justine Reese, the voiceover, the empowered voice. You'll find me there. My website is Justine Reese Voices, and it's being rebuilt as the Empowered Voice Coach, but both places will take you there. And of course on Instagram, we're doing so much on Instagram right now. So find me there. And those are the best places.
Amazing. This has been really amazing, Justine, and hopefully we can have you on some other time.
I would love it. Thank you for having me.
I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I want you to go away and execute everything there is that you've learned. Now, one thing I will say is if you're in a position where you're ready to actually take things to another level, you want structured, clear guidance, you want a team that can actually help accelerate you, book in a chat with our advisors. Why? We can blow up your personal brand to attract clients begging to work with you. All you got to do is book in a chat with our advisors and we can help make it happen. Sound fair enough?